Welcome back to the 515 Sports Podcast Network and the Hardwood Convos podcast as well with Dawson, Livingston, and Hunter Rose. I'm Brock Bierman here to give you probably a shorter episode as a whole. Not going to go really in depth on too much. I think we kind of have like a couple topics that we want to hit on, especially one of the record-setting performances that happened last week in the NBA. But it's March Madness. I know we would rather be talking about college hoops. Maybe we can hit on a little bit of that at the end of this episode. But how are you guys feeling? Have you guys been watching much NBA basketball in the last week or so, just because of conference tournaments and March Madness starting up as a whole?
Not as much as I should have. Honestly, the last 2 weeks has been chaotic, like you said, with conference championships, March Madness going on. Even the WBC was awesome up until a certain man in New York decided to go 0-4 with 3 strikeouts. But, this isn't a baseball podcast.
I didn't watch. I'm assuming you're referring to a guy named Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Another
reason to hate the New York Yankees.
Yep.
The United States could have gotten a sweep in hockey and baseball, but no, we decided to fall on our face. But no, I'm super excited for March Madness and NBA's. We've had some pretty good storylines since the last time we recorded, so it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, I watched a few games. Definitely conference games took a little bit more priority when those are on, but nonetheless, still been able to try to keep up as much as I can. It helps that spring break is in this past week, which I am UNC status now, so I'm not in school. But still makes the town I'm living in a bit slower. So that always helps out a little bit.
My entire office was pretty much out today, so I was just sitting there by myself looking at NCAA tournament matchups, really, because I was like, I got all my work done. Might as well look at the heavy matchup between Purdue and Queens.
Yeah, but if anybody was curious, Shams is bored again. So he may.
I did see something today that we could probably talk on.
Yeah, he got bored. So he was like, you know what? I'm gonna type my favorite word on my phone. He probably types G in the first recommended word from Siri for sure, 100%.
He types in G and it goes Giannis Antetokounmpo wants out of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That's
whenever
immediately.
It's funny too because so for anybody out there that ever has the Apple, recommended, or autocorrect, things like that. If you ever type Giannis, for the first time, or if you don't type Giannis as much as some of us do, it'll autocorrect to Giannis, apostrophe S. I am 99.9% confident Shams' phone does not do that. Definitely.
Yeah, it probably does.
If anything, he types Giannis and it autocorrects to Giannis. Probably. Who knows?
Well, we'll definitely maybe hit on that a little bit today. I don't know if it's really anything to really spend too much time on. But of course, we probably should be talking more about the performance last week that has been very polarizing in the NBA. And that, of course, was Bam Adebayo's record-breaking performance, scoring 83 points in a single game against the Washington Wizards. And first of all, it wasn't on TV. You had to have League Pass, I think, to be able to watch the game. So as it was happening, I'm pretty sure a lot of people, including myself, were like, oh my God, this is how is this even possible? This is unbelievable. And then a couple hours passed, or the next day you wake up and get on your phone and you see the highlights of how Bam Adebayo was able to get to 83 points. Shot or made 43s, which I think is either close to or is another NBA record that he hit. I can't remember for sure because, again, no one really cares about that part of it. But 40 free throws. The Heat were fouling people intentionally. Bam wasn't necessarily taking the most ethical shots. Pulling his best SGA impression, I feel like would be the best way to describe some of those. Just overall, an interesting way to break the second most all-time points scored in an NBA game record, held by the late Kobe Bryant of 81 points. What were your guys' thoughts on this? Obviously, the Miami Heat have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on what they did. They're not ashamed of anything that they did. Spoelstra doesn't apologize to anyone. I mean, that's pretty much his entire personality or his entire tenure in Miami. Bam has talked about, I mean, wouldn't you at the 9-minute mark who had 70 points go and try to get 80? So it's one of those where it's like, instantly I react and I go, I think this was not a good look for the NBA, especially with how many scuffles we'll see from unwritten rules broken in the NBA games. But also, like, you still scored 83 points, and that's impressive. So what side do you guys kind of lean on? Because I literally feel like I'm dead in the middle because I don't know which way is the best way to feel about this.
Hunter, do you want to go first, or I don't know? I feel like you have your.
I can go first. Like, okay. So I think what my I'll like skip to like the end of my argument and like work backwards, I guess. Like at the end of the day, like 83 points is 83 points. Like 43 free throws attempted. Like, yeah, that's kind of wild. Like really wild, actually. But again, like at the end of the day, like it is 83 points. And that has just it felt impossible. Like the closest we've probably seen has been Donovan Mitchell, right? Was he probably the next closest that we've really seen? And so it's just wild. I think the wildest part is that it was Bam Adebayo of all people that did this, because like when you look, people are gonna look at like the records down the road. First place supposedly Wilt Chamberlain, 100 points. Like, oh yeah, Wilt, like that makes sense. Like that guy's got the wildest records. You look at now third place Kobe Bryant, 81. Like, oh yeah, Kobe Bryant. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Who's Bam Adebayo? Like that's what we're gonna be saying in like kids 30 years from now. Like, who in the world is that? All respect to the all-star Bam Adebayo. But it's like in a whole different tier. Like not even like close in tiers, in my opinion, here in the NBA history hierarchy. But here we are, regardless. The first quarter in particular was awesome. That was like I thought that was the funnest part of the game. I think he scored 32, if I remember right, in the first. There were some wild buckets. Like, bro was just like shooting whatever, and it just was going in. Like, it was crazy. And then we'll skip the second and third quarter, but obviously he was still doing his thing. And then once you get to the fourth quarter is when it's like, this is how we get there. Okay. And to be fair too, like the Wizards were just disgusting this game. Like they were triple teaming, bro, full court. Obviously Brock said he was doing his best Shea impression, but there were times like they were just kind of full on like hacking him, like stop it. Not even trying to play for the ball. It seemed like it was pretty atrocious. I mean, when you let a guy score 83 points, you can say this without the hacking, but it was just atrocious defense. Absolutely terrible. But again, like I said, like at the end of the day, like I can hate on it as much as I want to and as I can, because I just don't like the Miami Heat, and I'm always going to default to that. But yeah, 83 is still crazy. It's one of those records at this point where like at least when you look at Kobe's and Wilt's, it's like I have no idea if it's ever going to be achieved, because it just felt so impossible. And watching guys like Luka, Donovan Mitchell, heck, even Giannis last year against the Pacers.
Embiid has a 70-point game too.
Embiid, yep. It's just like 80 just felt impossible, like insurmountable. Like 70 felt crazy enough, but at this point, again, if Bam Adebayo can go for 83, if Malachi Flynn can go for 50, like,
Of the century right there.
I have no idea. Corey Brewer going for 51, like who knows?
Williams.
Yeah. So
didn't Mo Williams he had a 50, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Dawson, what are your opinions?
I agree with like most of Hunter's points. Like you said, his first half, he had 43 in the first half, and that's when like everyone started turning on the game. It's like, whoa, 43 points and a half is like a pretty unreal game for especially like Bam Adebayo, who is a career like 17 points per game guy or 18 points per game guy. Not even the best scorer on his team, I would say. So like I think when everyone saw that, it was like, okay, let's turn on the Miami Heat game. And you look at his stats at halftime, he's 13 of 24 from the field, 5 of 11 from 3, 12 of 14 from the line. Like a pretty ethical 43-point game. And then we pull up the second half stats. In the second half, this man shot 29 free throws. 29. I don't know what the most free throws been shot in a game this year is, but I gotta imagine Bam's second half stats are higher than the next closest. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that. And in the second half, his field goal percentage just took an absolute nosedive. Like I said, he was 13 of 24 in the first half, I believe. And in the second half, he shot 7 of 19 and then 2 of 11 from 3. So like after that first quarter where he really had it going, he kind of just like shooting percentage kept going down and down and down. But the story that everyone's talking about is just the I wanted to say garbage, but the Wizards were kind of doing it to themselves. Like they were just like missing free throws and also fouling Miami. I mean, I think everyone's so worked up about Bam scoring 83, because the person he passed in points and the all-time single game record is Kobe Bryant. I think that's like the stem of most of this. And like there are Kobe truthers out there that like never wanted to see that record be broken, because Kobe scored the most points in an NBA game since the merger. I mean, you take away Wilt's.
He scored the most points caught on video.
Yeah, true. And I think the crazy part too is, so we're always going to remember this in the fourth quarter, the Miami's fouling, missing free throws intentionally just to try to get Bam the ball back. But there are stories out there during Wilt's 100-point game that his teammates were doing the exact same thing to get him to 100 points. I don't know if you guys have seen any of those articles that have recently come out now that people are backlashing on Bam's game. But when you're at 70 points and you're like within arm's reach of the record, why not go for it? I'm not like super opposed to like him going for it and Miami going for it, but it just like looked super, super bad at the end. I mean, they were up by 20 points in the fourth. They're fouling Washington. It just looked gross, but I'm never going to fault someone if they're chasing a record to just go for it.
I won't fault Bam at all. I'll fault the Miami Heat, who have always been pushing this Miami culture, Heat culture thing. If your culture is breaking a lot of unwritten rules in basketball just so your guy could have a chance at scoring 83 points, okay, yeah, that's cool. Also, I think he even said, I don't remember for sure, so you'd have to look it up. He had 70 with 9 minutes left. You're telling me bro couldn't score 13 more points without having to do all that in 9 minutes? Like, I know that they were triple teaming him and everything, but you didn't have to foul the team that you were playing, all that stuff. Here's something that I will say is, and this is another reason why these records, like sometimes when you just look at the record book, it doesn't really say the whole story. And why it's going to be, why a lot of people, I feel like of our generation probably will be like, oh yeah, I mean, that happened. They didn't need him to score 83 points to win that game. The Los Angeles Lakers needed Kobe Bryant to score 81 points to win their game the day that he scored 81. And I think I'll probably get hate on that because, I mean, I am, Kobe's my favorite player of all time, which, if that doesn't show you how good of a player he was, the fact that I am a Celtics fan whose favorite player is Kobe Bryant, that I feel like that says a lot. But I don't know. I think if you put the two games up side by side and say which one's more memorable, I think a lot more people will say Kobe Bryant's was. And I think I think 15, 20, 30 years from now, you guys have even said that. Going down the list of top scorers in NBA history in a single game, you'll have all these names, and then you'll have Bam Adebayo, and it's gonna be the Vince McMahon meme of, Dad, what was Bam Adebayo's 83-point game like? And it's just that's what that game, I feel like, is a perfect way to wrap that up. Is he didn't need it. It will obviously, again, 83 points is 83 points, but, and I'm not trying to force this into a comparison contest, but Kobe Bryant needed all 81 points because he had no one else on his team. Bam did not. He was playing the Washington Wizards.
On another note, do you think Jalen Rose watched that game and had flashbacks, or do you think he had like a sigh of relief?
I think he was
somebody else finally.
Yes, Alex Sarr's taking my place.
Do you think they'll do a commercial with Bam Adebayo and Alex Sarr, and he wants 83 olives? You guys remember that commercial with Kobe and Jalen Rose? That's one of my all-time favorite commercials. I if you haven't seen that, definitely go search up like Kobe Bryant, Jalen Rose 81 commercial or something like that on YouTube, and you'll find it. One of the best commercials of all time.
Poor Alex Sarr. He's forever going to be known as the guy who let him get 83 dropped on him, just like Jalen Rose.
Is he though?
I don't know.
Is he good? Is Alex Sarr going to be as good as Jalen Rose was as a complete career, that we are going to remember who was the main target for that?
The way the Wizards are going to be moving in the future.
Yeah, dude.
Maybe
you watch out. Frisky Wizards.
The next Twin Towers, Alex Sarr and Anthony Davis, here to walk into your trap and take your trap. All right, they're coming. They're coming.
Don't ever compare those two to the Houston Rockets Twin Towers. Don't
you compare the Houston Rockets Twin Towers to the Washington Wizards Twin Towers, all right?
I could make a joke right now, but I'm not going to.
You stay away from that.
Okay. Are we all in agreement though that, like, good for you for getting the record, but like it like leaves a sour taste in our mouth?
Good for you. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
Stay away. Stay back.
I guess I have one more thing on that. So, like, if we were to have like a draft of like who we think is
Bam Adebayo first.
Like before this game, if we would have had a draft of like who's the next person in line to break Kobe's record, how many picks are we going down before we pick Bam Adebayo?
Do you want to do it right now?
No, I don't want to do the exercise right now because I think we would get down a rabbit hole, and I would like to stay on course for this episode.
I think there would be multiple teams that would have multiple players selected before we even pick one person from the Miami Heat.
I'm thinking no more or no less than 50 players I can think of.
We are hitting. Some teams are having 3 players selected before one player from Miami is getting selected.
Yeah,
that's what's absurd about this. This might be the most absurd 70+ point game, and he scored 83.
No diss to Bam, but again, he's a career 16 points per game scorer.
That might be the lowest points per game for a guy scoring over.
He just 5x'd his career scoring average in one game. So
I would have taken Anthony Bennett before Bam Adebayo.
Okay.
That's wild.
Sorry.
Shout out Anthony Bennett, dude. Wow.
Whoa. Other kind of major news here in the NBA. It seems like the NBA executives and owners, I think they're going to be voting on whether or not there will be an expansion in the league as a whole. They have pretty much made it clear that Seattle and Las Vegas are the 2 cities that they're going to expand to, which, I mean, isn't shocking because those 2 cities have been rumored to be getting an expansion team. Las Vegas probably in the last 10 years, Seattle since Seattle left for Oklahoma City. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? I know we've kind of touched on the idea of expanding the league or whatever. I'm weird. It's weird because 34 is a weird number. I don't think it looks. I don't know. I'm not sure if I think expanding the league is a good idea because let's look at the bottom of the
What's
league.
32, right? If they expanded, they're
32.
talking
Yeah, I dyslexia did the NFL number, not the NBA number. 32. Okay, so backtrack. 32 is okay because the NFL has that, but I don't know if the NBA needs to expand. Let's look at the Washington Wizards. This whole episode is going to be slandering the Washington Wizards.
Stop that.
But like the bad teams are really bad, and just because you're expanding 2 more teams, if anything, those 2 cities like specifically are going to hurt the small market teams even more in terms of trying to be able to lure in free agents and be able to build teams or whatever. So I'm all for growing the game, and I'm all for bringing a team back to Seattle, first of all. But I don't know if the league really needs to expand.
Hunter, you want to take this one, or do you want me to start this one off?
Yeah, you start. You can start.
I think we're kind of at the point now with the NBA that I almost kind of disagree with your point, Brock. I think there's like too much talent in the NBA. It needs to be like redispersed. Feels like some of these like OKC and San Antonio feel like they're so much better than the 8th seed in the Western Conference right now that it almost just feels like we just need like a shuffle up. So I like it in that sense, but I don't know if I like you said, agree with the cities that are being chose other than Seattle. I just don't know if Vegas is going to be a city that can sustain a like consistent fan base.
Amen. Can we stop with the idea that Vegas is a like destination for pro sports teams anymore?
Yeah. The one thing I will note is, assuming the 2 expansion cities are Seattle and Vegas, that would mean the Western Conference would have 17 teams, and the East would have 15. It would mean that one of the West teams would get moved over, most likely Minnesota, and that would even give
Memphis?
more. No, the NBA doesn't want to do that. If they want the East to be good again, they'll kick over Minnesota. They do not. They're like, okay, Memphis, you can stay in the West. You can just stay at the bottom.
What about New Orleans? They got
no,
potential.
No, they don't. Shout out Derek Queen though.
Just put Oklahoma City in the East.
No,
I
don't.
You got the
know.
map of the leagues, and it's like Eastern Western Conference, and it's just Oklahoma City.
No. But I think that could be fun. Having Anthony Edwards in the Eastern Conference could be potentially fun. Could add some more top-heavy teams in the East, which the East is so much worse than the West. I think we all pretty much agree at this point. The NBA champion is going to come out of the Western Conference. I don't know. We're getting to picks later, but that's how I feel.
Are we all in agreement?
Okay. I believe whoever comes out of the Western Conference is going to win the title. But
sounds like a fan of a team not in contention. I'm kidding.
Wow. Okay.
It's the two weeks into Jason Tatum being back, and I'm full blown.
Brock's drinking the Kool-Aid already.
I'm drinking all the Celtics Kool-Aid. It was St. Patrick's Day this past weekend. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out St. Patty's. I'm curious to see like if the divisions will go to like NFL style. If there's 4 divisions in each conference with 4 teams in each division, or if they'll just, I don't know how they would do it. If they would have 3 divisions still and one would have 6 teams, that's kind of funky. So it kind of feels like they have to go to that NFL style. But again, I don't know how to feel about it until like the expansion draft happens, because then we'll see what players are like left unprotected and what Seattle and Las Vegas can pick. And it doesn't even sound like this isn't going to happen for another 3 or 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. So we still have quite a ways before we see this expansion like actually happen. But I'm very curious to see like if it's Minnesota, if it's Memphis, is it New Orleans that gets kicked over to the East, or what exactly happens?
Sucks that they're not bringing Vancouver back.
Unlucky. But yeah, I think I would also mostly agree with Dawson too. I I think especially, and kind of what we talked about before, just how deep the NBA is now. It'll be interesting to see like how it shakes up kind of the landscape of stardom just in general. Because on one hand, like you could make the argument that there's more superstars in the NBA right now than ever before. On the other hand, you could argue there's not enough superstars around to expand the league more, which is when we get kind of into Brock's point too of like there's just some really bad teams out there, and adding more teams could make it difficult in that way. But overall, if something else that we've learned just in the past few years with like parity, just in general in the NBA, like having more teams would actually be, I would argue, probably be better for that, honestly. You're just going to bring forth even more competition, especially when you see, obviously, we see the level that is required for teams to have like an MVP level player on your team in order to win the finals. But we are also seeing like team play and roster construction not matter more than before, but seemingly matter more than like having just like a big three or a dynamic duo or a big four, stuff like that, or core four. And so I think it won't be clear on if it's the right or wrong move until we're like maybe like 3 or 4 years removed from it. So I think the other thing that's cool is on one, while we have like a deeper league than ever before, it almost feels like excluding a certain draft class that I don't need to point out who. It seems like our drafts have almost gotten like deeper and deeper too, and just the amount of people coming not only from the collegiate level but also from overseas, and the amount of players that are, younger and better in every way, which is really, really fun. And so I think it'll be cool to see years past that, how that'll impact that. But then again, going back and forth here. So I let none of you out there know what my actual opinion is. On the other hand, something we talked about the other week on this podcast about the absolute atrocity that is tanking in this league right now, and that's the number one problem right now that we need to address. I don't know if an expansion will actually help that, like at all. Which is really funny that is also the first thing that Adam Silver's like, we need more teams. But stop being bad. We need less teams to be bad. We need more teams in general, because surely those two will work together and we will achieve greatness in this league. And that's why the Detroit Pistons, that even though they're the best team in the East, still have an empty arena for games for some reason. But yeah, man, let's stop tanking by adding more teams. All that aside, tangent to say, I do like the expansion drafts. I am excited. And like Dawson said too, they haven't voted on it yet. It's probably going to pass though, more than likely. But I don't actually think we'll have a good idea of how that will impact the league until we get multiple years afterwards.
So are your guys' perspectives that the league will be better? The league is too talented right now, that the expansion draft would even out the teams, because I'm worried that like still there's going to be really, really crappy teams that no one touches, because who's going to want to take a player from Utah in the expansion draft? I get the idea of like, oh, you can take some good players from better teams on the expansion draft side, but like all those players that you're mentioning that would be that might even out the league a little bit will all be protective, I feel like. So I don't know if that's really the expansion draft's actually going to make the league more of a parity than in years past, or if it's just going to add another team that's going to be in the lottery in the next year or so.
Yeah, we'll see. So the last expansion draft that actually took place was back in 2004 for Charlotte's team.
And they broke a record, not a record that you want to break, but
right. I don't know. They just weren't good at drafting players like whatsoever. So I don't know if I fully.
I wonder who their owner was.
Yeah. Who was that?
Owner LeBron James. Will he be the new owner in Las Vegas or Seattle?
God, I hope not. He's going to be. Well, I mean, he's talked about owning the
Yeah.
Las Vegas team. So,
yeah. And then
in 3 to 4 years, I mean, he's going to be retired by then.
you would think. But the time before that was 1995 when they added Toronto and Vancouver to the NBA. It sounds like out of like the player pool that like when the expansion draft happens, you don't necessarily have to fill out your roster because it says here that Toronto only got 14 players and Memphis only got 13. So you don't need to take like all the protected players. And I think you get like an extra draft pick or something along the lines in like the following draft to kind of even out your team. But like I look at this year's draft class with all this like crazy good freshmen that are going to be draft eligible this year. And I don't know. I just feel like with like Hunter said, with so much talent that is constantly coming back into the NBA, I think we're going to reach a point in the next few years of just like good players just not getting like any playing time or any minutes, and then they get faded out of the league or something along the lines of that. But I'm always going to be in favor of expansion because I don't know if I really like over half the league making the playoffs. It's the only sport in the modern America, like out of the big four, I believe. Then maybe them and NHL, but even NHL doesn't even have that goofy play-in game like the NBA does. The NBA is the only one where it's like, hey, 20 out of the 30 teams have a legit chance to make the playoffs. It just feels weird, feels wrong.
If you expand, you got to get rid of the play-in.
That's kind of what I think, because then you'll have 16 teams that are in the lottery, and then obviously the 16 that are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I'm just very worried that this is just, it's not going to do anything. It's going to just be a lateral move that will be in the same situation, the same teams that are competing or that everybody wants to go to still goes to, and all the other small market teams will get left behind. I could be wrong. That's just what I'm a little hesitant with, just because, I mean, look at the teams that always get the top free agents normally. Obviously, there's outliers with certain players or what, certain signings or whatever, but it's the big market teams or big names: Boston, New York, the LAs, the San Antonios. It's just, I mean, heck, I guess Miami, according to the NBA media, is like the biggest market ever because they're going to sign everybody every offseason. And so and then you got big market teams like Chicago who literally can't do anything. So it's like I'm worried that this expansion is going to just create more of a divide between the haves and the have-nots in the NBA. But again, I'm all for Seattle having a team back. I'm not sure how all the rights work with that. I think it's similar to the Houston Texans and the Tennessee Titans situation, where I think Oklahoma City might own the rights to the name of Seattle Supersonics. If a Seattle team does get expanded into the league and they are not the Supersonics,
I think the Thunder did release something that they would
be willing.
like you get all the Seattle stuff.
Perfect.
Yep. So technically, quote unquote, right now, like the Thunder own the Sonics records, but they don't hang any of the Sonic stuff up in their like arena. But like the all-time the guy that's played the most Supersonics / Thunder games of all time is Gary Payton. So they still own that record, but I think Hunter's right. I think if Seattle gets the team, all those records from before 2008 to whenever they first started that team will go back to Seattle, which is cool to see.
See, for me, I think the record should stay with Oklahoma City. I just don't think like the naming rights and stuff like that, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want a Gary Payton record being represented on the Supersonics that was established in 2028. I know that he played for the Supersonics. That's my perspective. I don't know if that's actually something that they would do or if it's more just the naming rights. I will say though, given if you look at Seattle's logos, take a look at Seattle Pro Team's logos. They will do a rebrand to this logo, the Supersonics logo, and they will put the corporate navy blue and a semi hint of neon green and a bunch of gray to this logo, and people will be so upset. I guarantee you Seattle will do that, because if you look at all other pro sports logos, I think they're pretty similar in terms of color schemes. I think the WNBA one actually does fit the Seattle Supersonics logo, but I think they did that because of the Supersonics look. But if I remember correctly, I think a lot of their team, like the Seattle Mariners, kind of have that corporate look. And when I mean corporate look, it doesn't look like a sports logo, just because the color combination that they have just doesn't scream sports. Seattle Seahawks, I mean, the logo is cool, but the color scheme is not what it used to be. The color scheme used to be great. So I'm a little worried that if and when the Seattle Supersonics are back into play, they will modernize and tarnish the legacy of what the Seattle Supersonics were.
Just be ready for when the Seattle Supersonics come back for Nike to absolutely ruin the jerseys. I'm putting this out there 4 years in advance for when the team is official. So in 2030, when we get the jersey reveal of the Seattle Supersonics, and we see how gross the jerseys are, and we're all going to be wanting the classic ones, and Nike's just going to not do one thing about it. Look at Utah. Utah used to have some really cool jerseys, like in the mid 2000s, obviously the 90s.
Ones, though, this year are pretty cool.
But those are throwback ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, look at the Utah Jazz rebrand from like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, who thought... Wait, Dwayne Wade was a part of that decision. Don't let people let you forget that Dwayne Wade was in those rooms during that time.
So, just be prepared. In 4 years, 5 years, whenever the team comes back, for all of us to see the jerseys and all of us to hate them. Same goes for Vegas, too.
If the expansion does happen in 2038, though, the NBA and Nike deal is up by then. So maybe Adidas can sweep back in and take that up. But we'll be 38. I definitely won't have anything left on the top of my head by then. Maybe Jaylen Brown might have his 4 championships that he said he was going to get before age 27 or whatever it was.
Maybe he can dribble with his left hand by then.
Hey, that's top 5 MVP vote getter this season, Jaylen Brown, you're talking about. But yeah, I'm just saying, be hesitant on. I'm hesitant on what the logo will look like, because I'm worried that they're going to try to do that Seattle color scheme, because I almost associate that color scheme that they have with their sports teams with the entire city. It's just bland and meh. Do you guys agree Seattle's old logo, and like the same logo, older colors, was way better than what they have right now? And no offense to the Mariner fans, I do not like your color schemes. It's trash. So,
wow.
Give me the old Seattle Supersonics color scheme. As long as they have that, you know what? Again, Nike's already going to mess it up anyways. So, at least they still have the colors. Any final thoughts on that? Any naming ideas for the Vegas team?
It's going to be something along the lines of gambling, just because that's what that town is known for.
The Las Vegas draft, the draft.
The Las Vegas sports books is all it's going to be.
There we go.
The Vegas books.
Yes, there we go.
The logo's just going to be
the Las Vegas overs, LVO.
There we go. Yep.
First year they lead the league in unders per game or unders per season.
Yeah.
Something's fishy here.
Blackjacks.
You can't do really that because they already have the aces there. So I don't know if you can. The
Can you
Las
get the
Vegas
hearts?
slots? The what?
I don't think you can do slots.
Yeah, you can.
Not in Vegas.
The Vegas machines.
Wow.
Dealers.
Dealers.
I like that one.
Yeah. We could.
Yeah.
We could.
Could you just do the aces too? Like I know that kind of.
I don't know. Talk to our boy Adam Silver. Maybe he can because they own that league. You can just be like, you know what? You guys aren't called the Aces anymore. That's our name now.
Why can't they just both be it? Because
you have the Cyclones and the Little Cyclones. Get ready for the Aces and the Mr. Aces.
Mr. Aces,
There we go.
the King of Hearts.
Wow.
I don't 21ers.
I feel like we could spend like 30 minutes trying to figure out this name and the color combos and stuff.
The Las Vegas Spheres. They play in the sphere.
Watch them use the like NBA 2K blacktop names.
Oh
They're just
my
gonna be like the
gosh.
Ringers or the Ballers with the little diamond logo that just says Ringer.
Yep.
I'd be disgusted.
You know
Or
what? Though?
they could pull just basketball team for a year.
The Las Vegas Basketball
Yes.
Club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
LVBC. Las Vegas
we go.
Basketball Club.
There we go.
They actually probably will do that because I think Oklahoma City. Actually, I don't know if I don't know if Oklahoma City actually ever did that. No, I think they were the Thunder. EA though was not prepared and made an NBA Live with the Oklahoma City.
Tough.
That was their name. I think it was NBA Live 09 or something like that.
Well,
yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of names that they could come up with for that. How far is Death Valley in Nevada?
It's on the border.
Is it
between
how
California
close is that?
and Nevada?
How close is it to Vegas?
Probably
not close.
I don't know geography.
No, I didn't know if it like
Real.
something that they don't even need to call themselves Vegas anything. They can just be called the Death
They-
Fighter,
It's-
Death Valley Riders or
mean-
something like that.
the like southeast tip of Death Valley is like
I mean, it's like Golden
kind of
State.
close. I mean, depending on what your definition of close is, I guess.
Can Sacramento just change their name and make it so much easier?
They can be basketball team. They've
Sacramento
earned that.
basketball
Honestly,
team.
Honestly,
They've
the
earned
way
that.
they've been playing this year in the last few years, they deserve to be relegated.
Little did you know that actually the expansion team is going to be in Kansas City and the Sacramento Kings are moving to Vegas.
There we
Wait,
go.
no, that wouldn't make sense because wouldn't Sacramento want to be back in Kansas City? Never mind. There's too many California teams. Hunter, do you want to touch on the Shams' board?
No, I don't even want to pay attention to that.
Okay. Any final things that you guys want to hit on then outside of those two things? Because I think those were really our main stories over the last week or so, NBA wise.
No, what are we like 15 games away from playoffs? Around
Slowly
there?
but surely. Slowly but surely.
Yeah. So we're getting there. Did we want to give our updated playoff picks?
We can do that when it's closer, maybe.
Okay. Maybe when the playoffs start.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout on our social media pages for, I mean, by the time this is probably up, you'll be able to see our Final Four picks for the NCAA tournament. You'll see some familiar names that haven't been on a show for a while, as well as some names that will be joining the podcast network in the next couple months or so. I think we're going to get back into college sports on our network, so that will be fun. I know that we've been trying to find a way to do a base MLB podcast, but we can't find someone else to help this one guy that wants to join our crew. So if you know anybody that wants to talk MLB baseball at least once, if not twice a week, let me know. Let me know. But for Hunter Rose and Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Bierman. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Hardwood Convos here on the 515 Podcast Network. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, whatever you can do to help support us. We truly appreciate it. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms at 515 Podcasts. And for, again, everybody here, we'll see you next week.